Kia ora and welcome to the Niggly Niche Cast. I am the Diggity Dude Doc, aka Mr. Slipper, here to talk through the Blackcaps World Cup campaign with the wildcard. We are the Niche Cache, and you can support the Niche Cast however you like. Jump on Patreon if that's your buzz and support us directly. If you know of anyone, maybe yourself, who wants to sponsor the Niche Cast, hit us up. Otherwise, like, subscribe, rate, and review. Do all that good stuff. Comment it up for the boys and just help us out as we talk through Kiwi sporting matters. And we had a bit of a washout between the Blackcaps and India, as has been a bit of the case in the Cricket World Cup. A bit of rain floating around, and it's a bit of trickiness for everyone to get involved. It's a bit of this, a bit of that wild card. How do you feel right now about the Blackcaps, considering we have basically talked through all the selection situations, we've talked through how they're going to play, and we're in a weird spot right now considering we went through all the Blackcaps situations prior to the Indian game. There was no play in the India game, so everything kind of remains. As always, how the fuck are ya? And I don't know, you can kind of take this Blackcaps conversation wherever you like, Wildcard, because right now I've got nothing really new to add. I just want to jump off the back of whatever thoughts you have on the Blackcaps ahead of their game against South Africa overnight Wednesday.
Well, that's the damn thing, isn't it? Is that we went through all the different permutations and all this before the India game, and then they never bloody played. So we're at a point now where, you know, after it was supposed to be this, like, the first three games pretty favourable, that like the three best matchups for New Zealand, arguably, and you got them out of the way with 3 wins from 3, like doing the business there, taking care of things, and then this India game was going to be the massive ramp up into real contending teams, and like, here's our first serious challenge, like, where do the Blackcaps stand against the contenders at this tournament? And we didn't play. we didn't get a single ball of action in, so the point is really useful. Like, the point means is because we got a point, it means we took a point off India at the same time. It's as good as a win because it's against another team that's challenging for those similar semi-final places. So I would argue we only really need to win 2 of the last 5 games in order to make the semi-finals. 3 of the last 5 would, I think, certainly put us through. So they're in a really good position, but we just don't know anything about this team 2 weeks into this tournament already. Like, what do we expect from them against a desperate South African team who has to win every single game from now on, pretty much, to have a chance? Like, against West Indies or Pakistan after that, 2 teams who probably our best 2 chances of knocking over those 2 wins that we need, but you know, those 2 teams are desperate as well. Those 2 teams are competing for fourth place, same as we are. And then we got Aussie and England at the end, and 2 teams that expect to be able to make the final, if not win the whole damn thing. So I just don't know where the Blackcaps stand right now, and it's weird because they sort of did slide under the radar by winning those first 3 games, but not winning the big, like, triumphant games against other contending teams, like, India's big win over Aussie, or England knocking down South Africa early on. Like, these kind of big results that got everyone talking. New Zealand just slid under the radar by winning comfortable games, and now it's going to be is it 10 days, I think, between games when they take the field against South Africa. So I don't know, like, it's almost like this big old hiatus in the middle. Like, this is the intermission for the World Cup, and that if we thought those first 3 games and then everything else was going to be a bit of a buffer beforehand, now it really is, because we've got a whole lot long break going on in between.
The moisture in the air and the extra bit of rain is a good sign for the Blackcaps bowlers. This is one of the key ideas I wrote about when I was clutching at straws, trying to get more Blackcaps content out with no game. But with just more rain about, I think it's very good for the Blackcaps seam attack, and I think it increases the chances rather dramatically of seeing Tim Southee come out against South Africa. It's going to be a 10:30 local start, and you're going to have conditions that should favour the Blackcaps seam as against South Africa. I'm just looking at a few stats here, Wildcard, just to fire up this conversation. The South Africa only have 2 batsmen in the top 25. One of them is 25th, so we can regurgitate that little statistic to say that South Africa have 1 batsman in the top 24 run scorers. That's Quinton de Kock. He is in 8th. And then you look at South Africa's bowling attack. They have Imran Tahir. He has 8 wickets, and that's good enough for him to be tied with Lockie Ferguson in 5th spot. And Imran Tahir is the only spinner who has, along with Chahal from India, but they're the 2 spinners, and they're both leggies. They are the only 2 spinners who have more than 6 wickets, and there are 14 of those bowlers. So that it paints a picture. You've also got Chris Morris and Andy Pelikuweo, who are in the top 14 wicket takers. So South Africa have 3 bowlers in the top 14 wicket takers, and they have the best spinner at the World Cup, but then they only have 1 batsman in the top 24 run scorers. So it's definitely a bowling heavy. How do you see the challenge offered by South Africa?
Well, we've traditionally done absolutely nothing against Imran Tahir. Like, he tends to kind of come into the attack relatively early against New Zealand and then just like shred our top order. So that's obviously a massive challenge right there, probably the biggest one. But yeah, I mean, their batting lineup isn't what it used to be. And even then, like, Amla missed a couple games at the start with injury, whether or not he can still score runs at the quicker pace as well, when he's like, what is he, like 36 or something now, you know? Like, Quinton de Kock, Faf du Plessis, obviously, like, massive, they're the 2 big beacons in that top order, but South Africa are vulnerable, and South Africa have players who, wouldn't have made this team 4 years ago or 8 years ago. I was watching during one of the rainout things, they're playing old, I think it was during the New Zealand-India rainout, I can't remember, but they were playing like old, I think it was old South African World Cup footage. Like, they just had one of those little sharp, like, ICC documentary type things running through each tournament, being like, here's how South Africa choked in this tournament, here's how South Africa choked in this tournament, and they showed the one how they choked in 2011, and I mean, it's funny, like, New Zealand famously beat them in the semi-final, like, arguably greatest game of cricket I've ever seen in the 2015. Everyone remembers that in this country, but, like, not as many people remember the one 4 years earlier when we had like a bowling attack that I think opened with Nathan McCullum, and I can't remember who the other spinner was that day, but it must have been Daniel Vettori surely. And like we somehow skittled like the big old batting collapse from South Africa to allow us to win that thing with one of the best South African batting lineups I've ever seen. Like, they had Callis, they had de Villiers, and I think du Plessis was probably there as well at that point. Like, I mean, this isn't the team that we expect from South Africa. Like, they're just not as good as they have been in the past. And yeah, I mean, I guess we got to be that whole like smell blood in the water kind of thing. Circle around like sharks and take advantage. We can't be dropping games at this point, but like, yeah, I don't know what to expect, because I just don't know what to expect from the Blackcaps. I mean, I can look at South Africa and say this is what they've done, this is where they're weak, but I just don't know whether the Blackcaps have it in them to target those. I guess the key guy, for my mind, because we've seen Taylor and we've seen Williamson both get runs so far this tournament. Not too worried about that. We know the openers are toss a coin. The guy I want to see just coming in, swinging the ball, taking wickets is Trent Boult, because he just hasn't done anything yet, and I think he's possibly, like, it's not something to worry about. I think other guys have stepped up, but against the better teams in those must-win games, you do want your best players to be performing, so I am leaning on Trent Boult a little bit going into this one, but it's bloody hard to come up with, like, talking points, isn't it, when they've just been out of action for so long.
I can tell you that Imran Tahir averages 27.93 against New Zealand,
Oh, it's not even that
which,
good.
26.76 against New Zealand, which you're saying isn't very
Still.
good, but it's his best average against a big team. So he averages better against Sri Lanka, he averages better against West Indies, he averages better against Zimbabwe, but he doesn't average better against any other big nation.
Do you have a
So
strike rate? Because I guess a leg spinner would get pumped now and then. Like, you expect to go for some runs. You don't expect to have a, like, Shane Bond 18-19 average against your best foes.
no, but that's just to say that his best bowling comes of against the big nations. Imran Tahir's best bowling comes against New Zealand, which is also important considering he averages 27 in New Zealand and 27 in England. So similar conditions, and he averages fairly similar with the ball. So Imran Tahir is definitely going to be a weapon, and I would hazard a guess that Imran Tahir might open the bowling as well, just to trouble Martin Guptill, Colin Munro, try to shake up the apple cart there, because South Africa's new ball bowling might be a bit suspect against the likes of Colin Munro and Martin Guptill, who can be very aggressive against kind of stock standard. You are going to have Rabada, and then you don't quite have the X factor with the seam department, and that's where I think Imran Tahir is going to play a huge role in this game for the Blackcaps. You mentioned blood in the water, and that's the main situation for the Blackcaps, is how they approach that blood in the water, because there's nothing to suggest that the Blackcaps have a killer instinct. We've seen absolutely nothing from the Blackcaps over the since the last World Cup, against better opposition, that they have a killer instinct. They have a bullying instinct, but they don't exactly have the killer instinct. They've got the competitive underdog instinct, but they don't really have the killer instinct. So I'm not convinced that they're going to come out and ransack South Africa. I think South Africa are going to be fairly excited to play this game, and, as you said, desperate to get a win. But I'm interested in how the Blackcaps approach it, because they might go super aggressive, and this is the same kind of narrative that we talked about prior to India, is whether they play it safe or play aggressive. But now you've just thrown the blood in the water scenario into this equation, and it just doesn't feel like the Blackcaps are hunting prey. It feels like they're just gonna play it fairly solid, go about their business, and that may be good enough to get the win. So it's not really a bad thing. It's more just fascinating to see which route this Blackcaps team goes down, starting with team selection, and then how confident they are against a South Africa team who, at this point, is a fairly volatile unit. Like, we don't know what's going to happen with South Africa in this game.
Well, South Africa have, 4 games left, and they're currently on, where are we here? 3 points. one win, 3 defeats, and 1 no result. So they've got, to get to the semi-finals.
Well, they got to win wild card. Don't worry about what's coming after this. They need to win against New Zealand.
Well, to get to the semi-finals, you probably need 11 points, so they have to win all of their remaining games in order to do that. So yeah, it's not just like banal kind of, they have to win because they haven't been doing well, like it's a must win, like they'll say in like English football or something, a team's lost a couple games in a row, this is a must win, otherwise the pressure will start to go on. Well, that doesn't mean anything, but in this situation, they have to win because they will be eliminated from the World Cup if they do not. So yeah, relatively big deal there, and so we are coming up against a pretty desperate team. Interesting facts on Tahir. I was just having a peek at that while you're talking because I wanted to have a look at those stats myself. He, averaged 26.76 against New Zealand, economy 4.25, both very good. Strike rate's 37.7. I thought that might be higher. And the reason for that is having a look through it in 12 games against New Zealand, he's never taken more than 2 wickets. Although he has taken exactly 2 wickets, 5, 6, 7 of those 12 times. So I think that tells you, and the last time also he played New Zealand, he got 2 for 14 from 10 overs at Eden Park. That was in 2017. So I think that tells you that New Zealand tend to have a bit of a plan to him, which is the Daniel Vettori plan of let's just see him off. Let him have, like, ideally none for 45, but probably more likely 1 for 40 or something like that, and we'll take what we can get against the others, which I wonder if that isn't still a good, like, a viable option against South Africa, because obviously Kagesa Rabada is extremely good, but do they have the, like, the guys around him that you can target and you can get some runs off, the guys that'll give you the release ball? I kind of feel that they do, and I wonder if that won't be an approach. I think I'd rather see us bowl first against this team anyway and just, like, chase a target knowing what we can get. But again, we'll see how that goes. Cam Williamson's won 3 tosses out of 3 so far, so I don't know if that means his luck should continue or his luck is bound to change. I think it doesn't actually make a difference because every time you toss a coin is a new situation. But yeah, I don't know.
How do you feel the Blackcaps approach this game? Do you think are they
That's exactly
are they
what I was just
aggressive?
gonna ask you.
Are they solid? Like what? Well, that's what I asked you. Like, how are you? South Africa are blood in the water. They are desperate. They have to win this game. South Africa are not the type of sporting country, who fold in these situations. Sure, they have a reputation of not winning World Cups and being knocked out of World Cups, but South Africa as a sporting nation do not fold as they suggested they may be folding at this World Cup. So that essentially comes around to where South Africa are going to fight bloody hard against New Zealand. They're going to be eager to make a statement against New Zealand. So how do you feel the Blackcaps approach this game?
Right, so I think that what you sort of said before is probably the more likely situation, is that the Blackcaps trust in their processes. They have a plan. They will go out there and try to do that. I don't think they'll go super aggressive. I do lean towards interested to hear, well, you already said a bit about that, with Tim Southee, just because of the way that things have been going. I think Tim Southee plays. I would like to see Tim Southee play, to be honest. I think whether you bring him in for Henry or whether you bring him in for de Gronholm is a very interesting question. I'm actually leaning towards the latter at this point, but I think the former is more likely. And I don't think there is anything else that needs to change. Colin Munro at this point is going to have to bat himself out of the team if he's going to be dropped. So that's not going to happen now at this point because they're just not that aggressive team. And I think I think they're just. I expect we just see the same old from the Blackcaps, which is they will trust that if they hit their lengths and bowl to their plans and set their fields in the right intelligent ways, that they'll be able to take wickets and restrict South Africa and then run down whenever they get, or vice versa, set a decent total and restrict them. And in contrast, you mentioned Tahir might open the bowling. Like, do you think New Zealand have anything of that kind of thing up their sleeve? Like, not specifically against this game, because I'm pretty confident we won't see that, but I'm just thinking, like, wider tournament, what is there that New Zealand could do to mix things up again in the big games and take advantage? Sort of thing that someone like Brendan McCullum or Martin Crowe before him might have done as a captain.
I'll get to that in a second. You just reminded me of that Super Rugby ad where Brendan McCullum's...
Why is Brendan McCullum on a Super Rugby ad, hey?
Because it's Cricket World Cup time, and he's got this whole shtick about, fearlessness and playing... just a free, as you would in the backyard rules and what the fuck's all that shit. Whereas the Blackcaps are doing the exact opposite of what Brendan McCullum kind of did and what he is telling Super Rugby people to do as well. So I just find that kind of funny. I
wouldn't say quite the exact opposite, but I do think they're reversing a bit, yeah.
You have kind of taken it down the tactical in-game scenarios, but what I was kind of alluding to was that the mindset starts with selection, and I think if you are selecting Tim Southee, that is an aggressive selection, because you're saying we are coming here and we're coming here to take wickets. Because if you select Tim Southee over Colin de Grandhomme, that's just an aggressive selection. Colin de Grandhomme is a bit of a nothing player at the moment in this Blackcaps team, and Tim Southee is a frontline world-class swing bowler. Sure, he might not be in the best form, but that's essentially what Tim Southee is. So you're selecting the frontline swinger over a dibbly-dobbler all-rounder, which is a naturally aggressive selection. So if they do select Tim Southee, to me, that is the insight I require. That's the insight into the mindset I require, because that suggests the Blackcaps are coming here. They are going all in on their strength of seam bowling. So you're going to have Tim Southee, you're going to have Trent Boult, you're going to have Matt Henry, you're going to have Lockie Ferguson. That's a seam attack that can take you quite far in this World Cup if conditions allow. The counter to that is if you select Tim Southee over Matt Henry or Tim Southee over Lockie Ferguson. Those aren't as aggressive moves. Those are more of the, no, we can only play with these amount of seamers. We have to have this guy in the all-rounder position, and we have to have one spinner. That's more of the play it safe. So that those are two very different routes that can go down just with Tim Southee's selection, let alone selecting Ish Sodhi. If you bring Ish Sodhi into the team, you're saying we want wickets. That is an aggressive move. And then you have a Henry Nicholls situation as well. And interestingly, I think you can very easily bring in Tim Southee or Henry Nicholls for Colin de Grandhomme. So you bring in Tim Southee in a very aggressive move with a powerful, hostile in the sense that they're going to be moving the ball around, and it's going to be difficult to hit boundaries against that seam attack if they are bowling well in favourable conditions. That's an aggressive, confident, we're not here to fuck around move, we smell blood in the water, and we're going to bowl you out. Whereas if you select Henry Nicholls to come in place of Colin de Grandhomme, you're kind of saying, okay, you know, we're going to bolster our batting lineup just in case. So I think just ranking the moves, super aggressive, super confident. The beautiful, powerful move, as I see it, is Tim Southee coming in for Colin de Grandhomme. Not quite as powerful as Tim Southee coming in for Matt Henry or Lockie Ferguson. Henry Nicholls coming in for Colin de Grandhomme would be a safe, solid move. Like, you don't really lose anything. You gain, like Henry Nicholls, many would agree, is a better batsman than Colin de Grandhomme. So you're going to have deeper batting, and that's going to be good for you. But it's just a solid, safe move. And then you've got the curveball, which would be bringing Ish Sodhi in. So I think it's just very interesting for me. I don't think we'll have to watch a lot more cricket to see what the Blackcaps can do with different combinations to kind of assess how their in-game tactics and styles flows throughout the tournament. But just in the uncertainty around team selection, that's where you can get a massive gauge into the mindset and how the Blackcaps feel they are sitting at this World Cup right now.
Yeah, that's an extremely valid point you make there, I think, the old team selection thing. Because you're right, it is really like, that's the first indication of everything else that's going to follow, isn't it? So how that goes, I suppose, will unlock everything else in a way.
And that's not to say that Tim Southee's going to come out and bowl well. We don't know what Tim Southee's going to do. Like, there's a fairly strong case to be made that Tim Southee is not going to be a factor at all in this World Cup, because there's little to suggest that he will be a huge factor at this World Cup based on what he's done for the Blackcaps in recent times. But the decision to bring Tim Southee in for Colin de Grandhomme, for example, that decision alone is a brave, confident, aggressive decision. And then it's up for Tim Southee to bowl as such.
Yeah, because you don't pick Tim Southee on the expectation that he's going to come in and be just like rank average. You pick him on the expectation that he can come in and deliver his best cricket. And his best cricket means swinging the ball around and taking early wickets, which means the Blackcaps being aggressive against the top of the order against other teams, which, by the way, is exactly what you're going to have to do if you want to be able to beat India or Australia, because those teams are scoring a lot of top order runs right now. And England are the same, although England, a couple injuries in that England game the other day. It was not, you gotta be careful with those things going deep into a long tournament. So especially when did you see Owen Morgan doing his post-match press conference standing up because he had a sore back?
Oh, I didn't, but that would be quite funny.
I'm glad the microphones are good enough to pick him up at an extra meter of distance, but I guess they would be at that height of media investment, I suppose.
I really hope Lockie Ferguson and Matt Henry are both in this team to face South Africa. I think if either one of them is missing from this team, that's going to be pretty down buzz, because we need to see them against a good team. We need to see Lockie Ferguson coming in, bowling heat against South Africa's batsmen. We need to see Matt Henry, whether his style of bowling is conducive to good performances against quality opposition. So I don't want to see either of them get dropped. They are the two best bowlers we've had so far in this World Cup, so they don't deserve to be dropped. But I have a feeling, just the way Kiwi cricket is, you bring in Tim Southee, you got to replace him with a seamer. There's no funky selections with the Blackcaps, apart from Tim Southee getting dropped for a test match. But there's no, the Blackcaps don't have a good track record of the brave selections like Tim Southee coming in for Colin de Grandhomme. So just interested to see the makeup of that bowling attack primarily.
Yeah, I could go either way on Matt Henry, because I don't we need to see if he's going to be affected deeper in the tournament. We do need to see him in these games doing well, taking wickets, bowling, with a bit of intensity. But because Tim Southee is such a kind of blatant, simple, you don't lose a lot either way with Tim Southee or Matt Henry. They're they're similar enough bowlers that one can just come in for the other one. Because of that, I'm not too fussed over whether Matt Henry plays deeper or not. But a Blackcaps team without Lockie Ferguson, when we're already, probably thanks to all the rain and various other situations within the team set up, not likely to see a whole lot of Ish Sodhi at this tournament. A Blackcaps 11 without Ferguson or Sodhi is one that I'm going to struggle to stay awake to watch deep into the night with. I'm just going to be honest here, Doc. Although it's a struggle at the best of times anyway, I suppose.
It has been. You are correct there. So the Blackcaps, they are playing overnight Wednesday, I believe. It's a 9:30 kickoff, which is a 10:30 start in England, and we'll be back probably on the Thursday to talk through that game. Hopefully there's a bit of play and we can actually learn something about this Blackcaps team, because
we need some talking points for next time.
Well, I think they need to play tough games. There's no point going into knockout top 4 Cricket World Cup cricket and you've got 3 good wins against the 3 weakest teams at the World Cup and you haven't really done anything else. This Blackcaps team kind of desperately needs to play tough games of cricket against the best teams, against the best players and the best tactics, the best preparation, to put them in a good position for that top 4 knockout phase of the World Cup. Otherwise, because right now it's a kind of a veil of illusion, which we've talked about ad nauseum over the summer with good performances in Aotearoa. Now we've got it in just a World Cup bubble. We've got this bubble of illusion. The Blackcaps have been great against weaker opposition, and now, not just for us, but for this team, they need to get repetitions in against the best teams at this World Cup. So hopefully that starts with South Africa, and we'll be back after that. Kia kaha, stay beautiful. See you later.